Yo.
Let's do this.
No, we're already doing it.
Amazing.
So how's camp going?
Day 2, same paperwork battle, but weather's been phenomenal. These guys are spoiled.
The weather today was beautiful, dude.
Great.
Although
You know,
we had
look, we go mornings, right? So that's a little different, right? But and you get that, like, I don't know. It's just when you walk out and that heat doesn't hit you in the face, you've already won for the day, you know? Like, so these guys can really get a good one in early before it really gets heated up and hot. I mean, I don't know if that is, I don't know. To me, it's like camp should be hot. Should that temperature, you should be, you know? But we'll take it.
We're in August 8th. First week. You guys, I don't know. I'm in like week 9,000 already.
I tried to warn you about that little Pee-wee AYF type of youth. Listen, I get it, but man,
funny.
I give you a lot of credit, man. Like I said, you're herding cats.
It's funny.
God bless you.
They're doing well, but it's funny, boy.
If you ain't fully gray by the end of this season, then you're good. That's where it's gonna stay, bro. But I don't know. That might be, I don't know, a couple more weeks of this stuff for you. I don't really know.
I think our season starts in like
you start after me. I start later than you, and then I play a game before you.
No, I think we start. I was told that we start not this Sunday, but the next Sunday's game.
Oh, very nice. See, so next week we'll scrimmage. We'll go scrimmage Wednesday, game scrimmage Friday, and then that'll put us in game week because we play Friday down in Ocean City.
That's cool. Yeah, that should be fun. Ocean City.
Could be. I mean, we got to, we didn't leave a very nice, 33-7 loss last year. Don't leave a nice, taste in your mouth. So hopefully these guys take some pride in that.
I just came across a picture of me in Cancun with, I don't know who the person is.
Oh, stop right there.
And with my old buddy, the late great Pete Connolly.
The one, rest in peace.
Rest in peace. It was my
what a dude.
He was my guy, dude. We used to have so much fun.
I am so excited to dive into the Johnny Manziel thing on Netflix that just got released today. I can't wait to see it. And then Hard Knocks tonight. We're 2 for 2 today. So listen, no sleep anyway over here, so we're good.
Did they already start the Urban Meyer one or no?
No, that one comes next week or a couple weeks.
Johnny Manziel's already been released?
Already out. It's already out. You can go on Netflix right now and it's there.
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, dude, I'm
binge watching Johnny.
Just because not only was he a good football player, but he's TMZ's best thing ever, right?
He's the first TMZ football player.
100%. He is the first reality TV football player, right? And then could you just could you imagine him in this world now of NIL with, Johnny Football? I mean, come on, man. He actually probably pushed it more to happen, right? Look at what this guy's doing. And how can we stop this, Crazy.
Johnny, I know I've told you this before. Johnny Manziel, who he played it, he came to my camps when he was came to my Austin camps.
It starts with him sitting in the end zone of watching a high school game at his school, and the first thing he says is, "High school football in Texas is gospel."
Yeah,
they're yeah.
His high school stats, because I remember he won our National Player of the Year from our All-Star game. In high school, he had, you ready for this? I think I've told you this several times.
I love it because you're tied to him, right? Like him, Mario, some of these guys literally have been through your stuffs, and for him to be one of them, one of those guys that beats to his own drum, I guess you could say.
There was a stretch with NUC when we had 4. I think it was 4 of 5 Heisman Trophy winners.
Heisman's.
Heisman's. So we had
Heisman at 19 years old.
Johnny Manziel, then we had Marcus Mariota, then we had Derrick Henry, and then Kyler Murray.
Yo, how funny is it? How funny is it to look at those three quarterbacks and like they have a certain style that none of the others have, and they all went through your, you know what I mean? They have that more athletic.
Probably because you could run a 40 in our event. So running a 40, probably in the old days, you could run everybody tested. So if you were a quarterback that could run
quarterback, you said quarterbacks ran the 40 or did not?
Everybody did. Yeah. Everybody. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was just part of your, hey, you come to my showcase. This is what we do, you know?
Right. So that was kind of thrown into the evaluation too. So those guys who could run, it was helpful.
Those three, yeah, right. Like, hey, obviously it's going to like, you know, sorry, but here's what it is. Like, this is what we see kind of as and then also like his whole, like, dude, he had Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator the year he won the Heisman. Like, you're talking two guys that are very similar in personality wise, you know, just let it rip, you know? And that for him to like say, hey, you're a freshman, to have that, like, all right, my offensive coordinator's kind of got my back, right? Like now I can, and nobody's expecting anything. All go, no breaks.
His high school senior year, ready? Here's the stats. His senior year, he was 228 for 347 passing for 3,609 yards, 45 touchdown passes. Okay. And then he had only 5 interceptions. That's incredible.
See, that's the part that, you know what I mean? Like, that's the one where people will look at and they won't really recognize how amazing that stat is. For how many attempts?
He had 347 attempts. And out of 300,
damn good.
That's pretty damn good, right? So then he had 170 rushes for 1,674 yards, basically averaged 10 yards a carry and 30 touchdowns.
That's the other part. Like, he ran for another, like, you know what I mean?
He had 75 touchdowns his senior year of high school. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, we have our special guest. I see him here. So,
oh my God, what a good guy.
We're gonna bring him on right now. Tarig Holman, the head coach of St. Thomas Aquinas out of New Jersey.
Formerly Bishop R.
Formerly, right. Formerly Bishop R. But not only is he a fantastic football coach, but he also was a big-time Division I athlete himself. Penn State, out of Randolph.
Iowa.
I mean, Iowa. Did I say Penn State? I mean, Iowa.
You're in the Big Ten, brother. And it's changing, so we're okay. You're okay. With the way teams are changing conferences now, dude, we're good.
That was back when. That's when back then when Iowa used to grab so many top New Jersey players.
A ton, and we'll talk about that.
Yep, and then out of Randolph, New Jersey, originally, and we'll talk about all those things. We'll talk about his camp and how that's going. And then we'll go from there. We'll bring him on right now. Coach Holman.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, my guy. Hey, buddy, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Just got home. Today was a McDonald's day because we got off the field a little bit late. So I chugged down a Big Mac. So it's going to show up a little bit later, but it's all right.
You're good. That's it'll get you the juice to get through another hour. You're good.
Plus, you're lucky. You got good genetics. You're able to stay lean. You know what I mean? That's a good thing.
Depends on what you call lean.
Well, you're leaner than me, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, you still got that one, so you're good. But thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Really excited to talk. So, you're at taking over St. Thomas Aquinas. They've had some good success. You guys had a really good success last year. Just kind of wanted to start there, but obviously there's a lot of places that we could talk about because obviously you were a big time football player yourself, and you went through the recruiting process. So, with St. Thomas Aquinas, and starting to really kind of take that program and making it to be an established power and getting it to that point. What's that process been in I guess, the little bit over a year since taking over?
I think it always starts at the top with, and and being in a parochial school with the president and the principal and the AD and getting everybody on the same page. And I also inherited a great bunch of kids. Unfortunately, Coach Meany, who had really got the ship on the right track, passed away, and I was offered the opportunity to be a part of, and that's always the hashtag I use, is just be a part of something great. And I was just blessed to have that opportunity. I have an awesome coaching staff, and I mean, as you guys know, it takes more than just one guy to put some things together. It takes an entire village and community to build and sustain a terrific program. So I've just been blessed to be around a lot of great people and had a lot of really, really good opportunities throughout my playing career, as well as my coaching career. And and St. Thomas Aquinas is definitely one of the better opportunities I've ever had.
Tell everyone about your journey. So we talked about it briefly. You played at Iowa. You were a big time prospect coming out of high school. A lot of people. There's a lot of coaches that have not been big time prospects. So how it feels to be a prospect, to get recruited, to go through that process. You're able to advise your players because of that. I think that's an important thing. And, it's something that goes often overlooked, but with coaches, but having that experience, I think it is important because you understand a little bit more of the dynamics that are going on. And you also are able to help a kid understand, hey, you are a Division I player, hey, this is what a Division I player is. You got a ways to go. Tell everyone a little bit of your journey as a player, and then how you started getting into coaching, and obviously we know where you're at now, but tell us a little bit about your journey and where it's taken you.
Yeah, I mean, the game of football changed my life. I moved to New Jersey as an eighth grader, and really got lucky to land in one of the top programs in the state at that time, Randolph. I was able to kind of inject myself into the culture that was already there. And I was, being immersed in the culture of excellence that was created there by, having, two Hall of Fame coaches that just happened to be father and son, in Coach Bauer Sr. and Coach Bauer Jr., and being a part of the program that they put together, and coming up and learning how to play football in that program. That became kind of the standard, and what I was used to. And, that's what I thought it was supposed to be like. And so I was, just blessed to have that opportunity and learn the game from some really, really good coaches. Coach Smolin, who, longtime guy up at Lenape, was involved in the Randolph program as well. Nick Diatavio, all these wing T gurus, who, just had the blueprint for success. And I was able to, come up in that program and be around, really a lot of really good coaches, but also have some really, really good teammates. And I was immersed in it, and really didn't start thinking about college football until really my the end of my junior year. What a lot of people don't know is I didn't even start until my junior year of high school. As a freshman and sophomore, I didn't even get anywhere near the field. But the hard work, the diligence, and and having some coaches that continued to push me, and just living out the process allowed me to be at my best when my best was necessary, and luckily was able to to garner some to garner some guys to look at me. And actually my first offer, I'm sure you guys all know the legend at Morris Knowles, Bill Regan. At the time, Bill Regan's college roommate was when he was younger was Lou Tepper. And at the time, Lou Tepper was the head coach at the University of Illinois. And as a junior, early in the season, we played Morris Knowles, and I mean, it was a really, really good game, and I played well. And after the game, I talked to Coach Regan, and he told me that I had a good game, and he gave a call to Coach Tepper, and Coach Tepper hadn't even seen any film on me. He just said if Coach Regan says you're good, you're good, and and I realized that at the end of the day, it's about relationships, and when you look at some of these guys that are playing at the next level too, their careers on the line. The things that they have to do to feed their family is in the hands of teenagers in some respects, and really, really young men. So when you look at the process, their jobs are on the line, and you look at guys that you can trust, guys that know the game, and I was able to have that impact on Coach Regan, and I'm always thankful for him. And one of the things, I think he's been coaching for 100 years, and you go to a clinic,
coach another 100.
Yeah, and you go to a clinic, and he's sitting in the front row taking notes, learning stuff, and it's those guys that that had really pushed our game forward. I'm eternally grateful to him, and a lot of the coaches that I've had. So that to me was really, really special. That was the first offer that I really got alongside of Rutgers, and took a visit out there. Also took a trip out to Wake Forest. Jim Caldwell was the head coach at Wake Forest when I took a trip out there, and Coach Caldwell went to Iowa. So and also my father went to school in Iowa. My father went to Drake University, and so that was kind of the tie that we had out there. And originally, being from Missouri, having a lot of Midwest ties, it was a perfect landing spot for me. And like I heard you guys alluding to when I was kind of way backstage, at that time, Iowa was really, really getting a lot of top talent out of New Jersey. The Gatorade Player of the Year the year before me, Vernon Rollins, went to Iowa, and he actually was my college roommate. He's one of the best football players I've ever seen. I've never seen anyone tackle people like him. I was like, I want to be on his team, And before him, you had Rashard Carter, who was one of the fastest dudes in Jersey at the time, from out of Passaic. I think Rashard ran like 10.5 or 10.4 or something like that. He could fly. And you had guys like Danon Hughes from Bayonne. You had Bo Porter from Weequahic. You had Bobby Diaco, who's a heck of a player too, and Ferronis and all the other guys that Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart's
I was just gonna say
Tony Stewart's one of the best football players I've ever seen in my life. And I still see these guys. Scott Slusker. That's right, tight end. And so we were really, really, really tight. And when I took the visit and saw the community, and was able to see the culture that was there at Iowa, and playing for one Hall of Famer and Coach Fry, and Frank Verducci was a guy in New Jersey.
Great guy.
Awesome coach. Brother writes for Sports Illustrated, and just what an awesome family. And when I was able to come down to make some decisions about where he wanted to go, it was kind of a no-brainer after I took the trip out there and just loved it. And now looking back on it, thousands of years later, I still feel like I made a really, really great decision. I got a lot of really good advice, and I think that's the big thing that made it good. And even with Coach Ferentz being there now, there's not too many players that can say that over 20 years later, your coach is still there.
Right.
And you're still welcomed home with open arms. So it's pretty cool to be on the sideline this past year when Iowa played Rutgers, and seeing Coach Ferentz, and my coach is still coaching there, and a couple of my teammates are now coaching there. Liddell Betts is the running backs coach, and LeVar Woods is the linebackers coach. So you kind of see things coming full circle, where as I have a lot of my college teammates that are now coaching. Bobby Diaco, had a heck of a coaching career also, and he'll be back soon. And Kerry Cooks is down at LSU as their DB coach. Bill Innocent is defense coordinator at Washington. I told you about the guys that are at Iowa. So there's just a plethora of guys that that are coaching out there right now, and now it's the same thing. It's like, the relationship that you have with them, and the fact that that they care about you and you care about them, and you're not going to steer them wrong, and the trust and the brotherhood that comes from playing the greatest sport on the earth, is meaningful. So, and that in itself allows me to really help to get our kids into school and do some of those things. I mean, one of the things that I'm most proud of at St. Thomas is that, all 12 of our seniors who wanted to play college football this past year are all playing college football.
Amazing.
They invested in their education, and they invested in playing in the program, and, they got to see that return on their investment. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So, I want to win every game that we play, but at the end of the day, it's about, allowing young men to use football as a vehicle to help them to get to where they want to be. So I'm just excited to be a part of that.
What you just said right there at the end is what football to me is all about. Being able to leverage the sport that you love to be able to get you where you want to be. Most of the kids want to go to college, and if they want to play, they can play. But no matter what it is, to be able to leverage it to where you want to be and utilize football to help you. And I've always found that that's coaches that look at it that way, always are the coaches that have players that come back and want to see them, have players that want to talk to them. Yes, obviously we all want to win a lot of games, and it's obviously unbelievably exciting winning a ton of games. But the most important thing is that those kids say, hey, this guy was in my corner, right? Just like the coaches that were in your corner for all those years. It's amazing the tree of coaches
Phenomenal.
and players that have come from not just from Randolph and Morris County out where you were, but obviously Iowa. I didn't realize that Don Smolin was at Randolph at the time. I didn't even.
Coach Smolin, Coach Smolin actually lived in Randolph, and his son and my brother, my younger brother, who I'm not really going to talk to anymore until week 3, after week 3, but I won't even say his name at this point. But my younger brother and his son were
Holman Bowl.
were in the they were in the same. They played in the same team. So
okay.
I got a chance to know Coach Smolin really, really well. And the thing that I see right now, another thing that I'm really proud of is that there's a lot of guys that that were assistant coaches of mine that are now head coaches. I think that we're up to 10 guys that have been on my staff that are now head coaches, and throughout the state. So I mean, I think those are the important things. Like I said before, when it's all said and done, I think that's the mark that you make on this sport, and that's how you can kind of leave a blueprint out there, and you can really make a difference. And you're never going to get rich being a high school football coach and a teacher, but you can definitely do some things that that can be remembered. You can leave your mark, you can leave a legacy, and you can definitely be a change agent for this planet.
No doubt about it. And football is an amazing vehicle for it. I mean, I see it even my son's age just started playing tackle football, and I'm coaching him. And he's a wild, he can be a wild guy. But I've already seen how football just focuses him. Like he's laser focused when he's at practice. Like he's there, and it's like, oh, I've been waiting to do something like this where I can actually tackle somebody, and then I have to lead other people. Then I got to listen. Then I got to work hard. All these different things that are meshed into football with teamwork and trusting other guys, right? And he's already started to mention to me. He's like, oh, this kid doesn't talk to that kid the right way. I said, well, you got to tell him. You're like, you got to tell him that we're teammates. We're on the same team. And you start to notice that, and much more in football, you notice it more than anything else, because what happens in a football team is the team falls apart if it doesn't work the right way. If there's not a mesh, if there's outlier or outliers that don't understand what everybody's looking to accomplish, if it doesn't get put in a right perspective, then the team doesn't succeed, and ultimately everybody doesn't get the experience they're looking for out of the program. So I see it even with him, like how he's like, he comes off practice field, he says, I'm only going to get better and better. I said, wow. And Derek's coached him in a couple of different things, and he's wild, but like in football, it's like, whoa, the kid's laser focused. And it's interesting to see how that's what I've noticed with kids. Like when they get on a football team, they realize that unique dynamic of football, the team aspect, but not just the team aspect. There are other team sports out there, but the fact that you're relying on everybody, right? You really relying on everyone to be successful.
I think the big thing, Coach Schuman, and I'm experiencing this as this is going in my 23rd year of teaching and coaching, but I've only been a football dad for about a year, and my son is I just came in the house from coming from my son's practice, and
perfect.
I think the big thing for me is that I started off by just trying to emulate the coaches that I had, trying to take some things from, Coach Bauer and Coach Smolin and Coach Regan and, Coach Fry and all the great coaches that I've had throughout my career. And then that kind of transformed into, trying to be the coach that I needed to have, when I was in high school. And that's kind of taken another trip now, is because now I'm trying to be, the coach that I feel like I would want my son to have, and I think that's the ultimate, that's the ultimate transformation. And I think that's the big difference. And I think that's the big thing, is just, not being a transactional coach and truly trying to live, as a transformative and a transformational coach is huge. And coaching to kind of save and change lives versus, coaching to score touchdowns, or, coaching to get interceptions and things like that. So I think when you focus on the kids, and, you really try to make it something that's special for them, is so empowering. It's so exciting. It's so much more fun on a totally different level that anybody can understand. But I mean, when you're out there watching your baby play, man, that's a different that's a different kind of excitement,
Yep.
And so that's something that I look forward to, and that I'm really excited about. I know Coach over there is just getting started, and I'm wondering, how in the heck are you even on this right now? I don't hear any crying in the background. What do you got going on, man? I need to find out how you're making this thing work.
Behind every successful man is a woman who can handle business, and I'm fortunate.
Wow. Hey, you hit the nail on the head, man. Hey, you got to make sure that she hears that.
Smart, bro. Smart. That's it. I've done my homework.
She's a special woman, man. For
she
sure.
is, bro.
And I saw that beautiful daughter. I saw that beautiful daughter of yours, and
thank you.
Thank God she doesn't look anything like you, man.
That's what I said. Thank God we're good. Let's hope she gets something, not these genetics, somebody else. It was 5'11". Okay, 5'8" don't work. Sorry. It is what it is. I might have come from Morris County, but it is. We sure as hell ain't the same, that's for sure. But we'll make it work. It's all good. Coach, I appreciate that. And coming full circle and looking at it, right? I think that's really, it's hard to find those guys that are like that now. Everybody, a lot of coaches, it's difficult, right? Because it's, there's just so much more, I feel, access to coaches now, without the protection that's kind of there, right? To kind of help guys out in terms of that stuff. But at the end of the day, man, this is still the greatest thing that we do. We have the power to impact these kids on a daily basis, and, not just, run this play or do that, but, how you doing and this types of stuff to help these guys off the field. Like you said, wins and losses are great, but at the same time, really seeing these guys succeed. And whether it's, going to college to play ball, or whether it's going to college to get an education and do something in that nature, we have, in my eyes, the best opportunity of anyone to really kind of impact these guys on that level.
Absolutely. And, we've shared the field a couple of times, and we've had some common kids that we known, and it's pretty cool that's the connection that's important. When you're able to reinforce and really hit home some of the major facets that it teaches you. It's just like when you're talking to kids, they hear from the other people, they hear from someone on the outside. So, that old saying that it takes a village to raise a child is huge. And when you can put a kid in a good situation and be a part of something that's really, really good, it's definitely empowering. And as a coach, I'm also at the age where I actually have a couple kids that I had in class the first couple of years of my teaching career, who's now kids play for me. So
Yeah,
those
that's awesome.
are special. You've been invited to weddings, and I had another kid drafted this
Yeah.
year, Jair Brown, who played at Penn State. He played for me down in Trenton. So you're able to see that some of these kids are doing terrific things out there, and they're being great, husbands, fathers, and the society, and just doing some great things. It's awesome, and that's why I do it.
It is an amazing thing transforming kids' lives. I was curious about with Iowa. So you were there when Hayden Fry originally was there, right?
Yep.
So with
Yep.
what was I remember when Tony Stewart, I remember Scott Slutzker, a lot of the slew of guys from Iowa. What was the impetus for them to start really recruiting so heavy in New Jersey? Because they don't really spend that much time as much out here as they used to, right? What made them start recruiting all those guys out in New Jersey?
I think you got to look at it as it's almost like if you look at the state of Iowa, and being a part of the Big Ten and wanting to be able to recruit, but you also you want to go, and like I said, it's about the relationship. So Frank Reducci is one of the best offensive line coaches that you're ever going to find anywhere. So you have him with his New Jersey ties. So we had a lot of guys from Jersey, but you also look at Coach Fry being from Texas. We had a lot of Texas guys. On our team as well. And then you look at, just trying to do your best that you can in the Midwest. And, but I think it's that, is the part of it, when you get really, really good coaches that happen to be, really, really good recruiters as well. And people feel comfortable with, sending their kid to you is what it's about. And Coach Reducci was that guy, Coach Reducci and Coach, Fry came to my house and sat down with my family. And, you could tell it was, it was genuine. It was going to be more of a transformative thing. And, and when you look at what you needed as, as a kid at that time, like I just needed to be taught. I needed to have structure, and I was able to get that. And I had some awesome teammates out there. And, you could tell once you step foot on the campus that, you look at the thing about Iowa is there's no professional sports in the state of Iowa. So, if we went to the Rose Bowl or we went to the Toilet Bowl, it didn't matter. We're going to have 75,000 people, in the stands, no matter what. So you look at that, you're going to get a top Big Ten education, there as well. So I just look at, just really surrounded, Coach Fry. Coach Fry was also a psychology major, and having Coach Fry there for, he was there for my first 3 years there, and I had Coach France my senior year. I don't think Coach Fry ever talked to me about football once, not once, not one X, never. It was always motivational stuff. It was always it was always things that he could definitely get into your psyche, and he could really coach your soul and hit home with things. And he was really, really unique in doing that. And you look at any other time, I would never have a connection with a 7-year-old white man who is from from the heart of Texas. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
that's
what you see.
100%.
And that's what you see. And that's what you see, the impact that football can have. And that's pretty awesome. And so now I look at, some of the guys that I've known from all over the country. There's not a state in the United States that I could go to and not be able to, call up one of my teammates or a friend of a friend or something. And, I think that's what makes this special, because, it's it's a unique fraternity of men that have gone out and done some things together. And you're internally gratefully for each other. You've had a ton of experiences and things like that. And like I said before, that's what I would love for my son to walk away from this game with. Go. You know what? I definitely want to see him score a whole bunch of touchdowns, get a whole bunch of picks for sure. But
that's a
at the
given.
end of the day,
That's already, we already know that.
I just want him to walk away having half of the experience that I have, and if I could do that for my own son and for the kids that are in my program, then that's success to me. Because like I said before, I just want to be a part of something great, and being a part of something great is, it's not just wins and losses. It's about becoming the best version of yourself that you can be, and I'm just excited to be able to do that, Coach.
Awesome. I've been to Iowa's campus.
Ooh.
It's very nice, actually. So, no, I'm serious.
What, you didn't expect to be nice?
Well, I'll tell you what I expected.
I didn't say that.
Hold on, I want to tell you what I expected, though. I want to tell you what I expected. Before you could chime right in, Derek, in 2 seconds. So I was out there. It was when I was still I was an NFL agent for 6 years, and he was a great receiver. I can't remember the name now off the top of my head, but he was a great receiver for Iowa. He had a big catch in the year when they were undefeated recently. But I can't believe it slips my mind, and he would kill me the fact that I'm forgetting it right now. But I met with him when I walked around when you're driving through Iowa, obviously there's lots of farms and corporate. That was what I expected, And then you come into Iowa. Is it Iowa City? Yeah. So Iowa City, and it's kind of like there's like hills, and it's like there's like these bridges. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Like it was what you would be like a college town. It was a beautiful city. I couldn't believe it. And it wasn't like, I mean, obviously there are farmers in the outskirt areas, but when you actually come into the city, it was like a beautiful city. I was blown away. I was like, I could see why players come here and I'd like to go to school here.
Yeah, it's awesome, and the directions to get to the University of Iowa are really easy too. Just get on 80 and drive straight for 16 hours, and you'll get there.
That works.
So it's real easy to get to Kinnick Stadium. So, and I've done that drive a lot. But I think that I also look at it as like Kissimmee in Florida, where you do have Iowa City, but you're really close to a lot of major cities. You're 3 hours from Chicago. You're 3 hours from St. Louis, and I had a lot of family in St. Louis and Chicago at the time. Minneapolis, Minnesota is really, really close. I mean, so you can, as far as being able to get away and go to some of the major cities in the country, those things were a given. And then the city itself is awesome. And I haven't had the opportunity to get back in almost 10 years, maybe a little bit longer than 10 years, but even now, just seeing some of the differences that's there, my old teammates and guys that are there all the time are like, you wouldn't even notice. It's so nice. You wouldn't know the place that you went to. And it was awesome when I was there. So, I can't imagine, what it's like now. I mean, I was able to see the weight room, and it's huge. And some of the things that these kids have now, I'm a little bit jealous, I have to admit, but I had a tremendous experience, but it's a really, really nice place to be, and the people in Iowa are different as well, to the point where they're almost so nice where you see the person's going to ask you how you're doing, and they really want to know how you're doing. In Jersey, people say how you doing and don't even wait for you to answer. They just keep it moving. You ask them a follow-up question, they start to act a little weird.
That's true.
It's people take their time. Like if you drive, the other thing that you see if you drive down 80 and people are flying by you all through Jersey. Get to Pennsylvania, they're still flying by you. You kind of hit Indiana a little bit, and the speed limit goes up, so you can go faster, but people are really taking their time.
There's nose down.
Yeah. And by the time you get to Iowa, it's there's no hurry here. All right, chill out, get to where you got to get to, and and it's like that. But I mean, like I said before, great experience. beautiful place to raise a family. And I have a lot of friends and teammates that are still out there. Vernon Rollins still lives in Iowa. Mikael Brown, another really good New Jersey athlete, is still out in Jersey. So there's a lot of guys that stayed out there. So,
Vernon Rollins
really
from
good place.
Hackensack, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember reading about
Bergen
it.
County guys. Bergen County guys.
He was an unbelievable player.
Yeah, he's different. He's a different kind of linebacker.
Yeah,
They don't make linebackers like that anymore.
He would
Probably
kill
not.
people.
Old school.
He would crush them. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness! I remember that they had those good teams, and he was just unbelievable. That was when Hackensack used to have a lot of great teams all the time.
That's one of the things, Chris. I think it's like great, right? Like, I mean, you talk about Iowa, right? Like you said, there's no other teams around, right? So like Iowa football is what everybody does. And now with the guys that we're seeing and all the name, image, likeness stuff, do you think that has hurt certain colleges, depending on where they are, or some of that, maybe some of these guys that are traditionally old, like old with that have that winning tradition, but they're not on the cutting edge of this because that's just not how they do things, right? Like, so do you feel like that has hurt some of those programs in that nature with the name, image, likeness stuff we have? Maybe players or these guys that are that are playing for us now are just looking for different things, right? Like that's great with a Notre Dame and all their tradition, but I don't know this guy that won the Heisman in 1920, whatever. I could really care less. Do you think that's had an impact?
I mean, first of all, I think they should make, and we can start this. I think they need to make NIL retroactive for all the players that have played in the league and played college football.
He wants his bag.
I think somebody needs to be cutting me a check. I look in the mail every single day, and I'm hoping I can get a check one of these days.
Yes, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
Yeah, so they told me the check's in the mail, so I'm still waiting for it. But
you said Iowa works at a different pace, so you wait just a little patient.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think you're going from one extreme to another extreme, and you're going from. I mean, full scholarship player. I'm still making $25 go, 10 days at least. And the other thing about Iowa's gas is cheap, so you can put $2 in that car and you can probably make it the whole week. But I think I think the biggest issue is you went from one extreme to another extreme. You went from players getting absolutely nothing, besides education and you get a little bit of meal money and things like that, to now guys making millions of dollars. And so I think that's the real issue, is that there's it went from like nothing, where coaches had all the power, and if you wanted to transfer, you had to sit, and if you really couldn't transfer within the same conference, and things like that, where universities and colleges had control over your name, image, and likeness.
Right, coaches would block certain guys. Hey, you can't transfer to these schools, but you can go here. Like that was a common thing.
Right. So I think that opened the door for, look, it's not fair. And I think everybody could agree it's not fair. But then you go from that to where it is now, and you say, whoa, that's crazy. Now you're putting everything, you're putting these colleges and these universities who are making all these millions of dollars in the hands of, again, 15, 16, 17, I mean, not 15, but 18-year-old kids. And that's scary in itself. That's why I would never coach college football. I'm high school for life, but so I think that's the part.
I'm trying to deal with that, right? You're sitting in room and all right, this receiver's making this because he's that guy, but this guy feels like he should be making I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. They're making more money than the coaches. You're making more money.
Yeah, right. But where's my bag, bro? Like I'm sitting here developing you. Each year you sign a new endorsement because we're sitting here doing, we're making that work, and you're driving around in this, and I got this. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So
I think the answer's somewhere in the middle. I think the answer's somewhere in the middle. I can't say what it really would look like, but I definitely think, just like there needed to be changes before, I think there needs to be, some kind of a change now. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I think, kids absolutely 100% deserve to be able to, make money off of their name, image, and likeness. But, I mean, making $2 million to be the quarterback of, one team, and then, it's just crazy. And even talking to some of these, some of the college coaches, it's, even with the portal and stuff like that,
they're dealing with it. Like, there's so much going on that now, like, I have to address, it used to just be like, can this guy play? Right. Or maybe he's got this going on, but now you're dealing with all this stuff. And, we've talked to,
you got tampering that goes on.
Right. Like, who's using NIL to bring a guy in for a Scott? You got to, oh, yeah, this guy's a walk-on, but he's got, you know what I'm saying? Like, using it that way. And, we talked to Coach Jackson down in West Virginia, and he was dealing with the same type of things, like talking about which guys are doing what and who's kind of where and all the other aspects that now go into the whole recruiting process. And then the transfer portal in general. There's just so many more things that everybody's dealing with on a regular basis. It's hard.
Yeah, it's really starting to hurt high school football. It's starting to hurt D3 football and Division II football as well. Just because kids are always looking for something bigger and better, and shoot, now you can take care of your family, while you're in college. So it's different, man. It's different. It's really, really tough. It makes it difficult as a high school coach to get kids to the next level. And so when you're sitting down with parents and you're talking about, hey, we're going to get your kid a scholarship, and we're going to do whatever we can. It's like, it's really hard to keep that promise these days. You really got to work. You really got to know some people and have
the network is. I think the network is the part, and I'm not the like this is exactly this is where we talked about Coach Schuman and what he does and that type of thing, and like we said, Coach Jackson at West Virginia, first thing he said, I talk to third-party people all the time. And it's one of these things that I am all for. If you're going to offer a guy a scholarship, I want to know everything about that guy. Whether I talk to his high school head coach, I want to talk to his middle school coach. I'm going to talk to, the lady in the cafeteria, right? So you're doing your due diligence. He was just explaining how now you see those third-party guys come in, and they're such a big part of this process.
Yeah.
And I think the issue really becomes is, and obviously having been on both sides of it, is that there are guys like you who know the recruiting process and can get guys in great position. And then there are high school coaches who really are like, a lot of times it happens much more because you coach public schools. So did I. Like at public schools, some of the guys you go against, they might be good football coaches, but don't either invest in the recruiting process or don't understand it. It's usually one of the two, sometimes both. And then what happens is because they haven't taken that time, like they might be a phys ed teacher and coaching football, and maybe they played Division III football, or maybe they didn't even play college football, but they're able to coach the game, but don't know the other part. And now because recruiting is every kid that probably comes out, especially where you are and where Derek is, everyone comes to you expecting to play in college, right? So someone like yourself knows what they're doing or has a good idea of where a kid belongs. Same thing with Derek, right? And you could point them in the right direction if there's somebody else that they should talk to. But then there's so many coaches, and I think the onus falls a little bit on coaches that even if you don't have that experience to try and learn it, but that part of the process, you have to come as a coach ready to go. Like if you're coming as a head coach, you have to know, and even if you're at a small group 1 public school, which I coached at back in the day, right? Yeah, I did. But out of that school, Steve Maneri played 5 years in the NFL. Steve Bahar played 2 years in the NFL. Stephen Longa played in the NFL for 5 years. And that was out of a Group 1 high school. And so I was a coach there, and the guy who was after me, even though he didn't even play in college, learned from what we did, right? So he was able to help his kids. And I think that's an important thing the high school coaches have to do, because college coaches are going to find the kids. That's because they'll lose their job, right? They'll lose their job if they don't find the kids.
You talked about it, right? Like their livelihood, putting food on the table for their kids, depends on an 18-year-old kid performing in a game, doing an activity, right?
Yeah, I think it's the process. When a head coach gets a job in high school, what's the first thing you think about? All right, what offense and defense am I going to run?
Right.
And that's the first mistake, and
Yes. Furthest thing from that's what's going to be the issue, buddy.
Yes, you have to surround yourself with some really, really good guys. I mean, you have to, and it has to be important to you, and you can't look at coaching football during the season. That's the part that takes care of itself, really.
Absolutely.
The fall takes care of itself, and if you do the right thing,
if you do the other stuff right
in the spring, and that becomes the easy part and the fun part. But the work truly happens, as soon as you collect that equipment. That's when the job really starts. And if I'm evaluating like a coaching job, like that's where you want to start. It's like, all right, when I collect this equipment, all right, this is what I'm doing. Making sure that your kids have a plan, and that plan has to take place before. As soon as their sophomore year is up, and so you meet when we're talking about the plan. You're getting their grades together. You're seeing the classes that they're taking, and just like in a couple of days, the Common App goes live for this year. So my kids are writing essays. They're like, shit, I mean, shoot. I'm supposed to be
this ain't one of those, buddy.
I'm supposed to be, playing football, and coach got me writing an essay about why I want to go to college. Well, it's something that's important, and so I think it's about prioritizing, and that's what we do within our program. We prioritize academics over athletics, and and the reason you have to do that is because if you take care of that part, you have more time to focus on athletics anyway. So
absolutely.
It's about putting a really good plan of action together. Looking at all your resources, finding good fits, and then you also have to make sure that you're being honest with college coaches as well, because when they come and they get one of your kids, and that kid doesn't pan out to be who you said he was going to be, it falls on you. So,
good point.
I think those are some of the things that are really important too when you're looking at the process. But
how do you advise your kids like where you think they belong? Because that has to be, especially at a parochial school where every kid wants to go the highest level they can. How do you advise your kids, your parents? Like what kind of stage do you set with them in preparing them about what level they should start to think about and so on?
Great question.
I mean, I think you start, again, like I want everybody to have top-notch academics. And so that's a part that all the kids can handle, right? You should be able to be a top-notch student. And if that part is taken care of, then you say, okay, it starts with your measurables. You're 5'4" and 140 pounds. Like you're not going to Alabama, right? And being upfront and honest with the kids, so look at your measurables, height, weight, speed and things like that. And then I always tell the kids is like, I ask them, say, where do you want to go to school? And if they give me, say they give me Bama. All right, you know what? I want to go to Alabama. I want to go to Iowa, coach. And I say, okay, look at the, the position that you play. Look at the kid who they offered scholarship to last year. Look at his huddle. Compare yourself. How do you think you saw him? How good how do you think you compare? And, and most of the time they're saying, okay, I can understand that. And then following that, you just look for a good fit. But the thing is that, all kids that if you start in high school football in New Jersey, I feel like, especially at our level, you can play college football somewhere. And that's what I talk about parents. I said, look, if they handle what they're handling and, they handle their academics, we'll take care of the football part. And what a lot of parents don't think or don't understand is that you can go to a Division III school for free as well. So you can go to a Division II school for free, and some, in some ways in between. So, and colleges love to come to schools like, like ours and yours, coach, because, they're getting top-notch students. They're getting kids that can play the game, and now they can give them academic money and they can give them athletic money. And now they can, rather than putting all their money into the, athletic portion of it, they can also give you some money for being a top-notch academic student as well. So I think it's about finding the best fit for them. It's about finding the best fit and using your resources. And I tell the kid, I say, listen, the one thing I can do is I can get you evaluated. And if you want some honest feedback, I'll give you some honest feedback. And sometimes it's looking at the harsh reality of what reality really is. And you can't sugarcoat it for kids and parents. You want them to know exactly what it is. And I think that's part of the relationship that you have to garner with them. And just let them know kind of where they are, where they stand, and what's come, what's in the future. And I think the good thing about where we are within our program is that last year we had a kid that pretty much went. We didn't have a kid that went BCS, but we had Division I FCS. We had we had Division I, we had Division II, we had a couple of Division III kids too. So I can say, hey, are you better than this kid that just graduated last year? What's your height and weight? Where do you
compare a guy to somebody
exactly.
they've seen in person?
Yeah. So, rather than, we look for role models, but hey, here's your goal model. This is kind of where you are. So I think that's where I usually start. The one thing that we do at St. Thomas too is that, we take college trips every single year. I try to get our kids on at least 3 campuses a year, and 3 different campuses. So, if you look at year 1, you go see 3 schools. Year 2, you go see 3 schools, and in year 3, you go see 3 schools. So now by the time you're a senior, you've been on 9 college campuses. And I try to go like we've gone to like this year we went to see Cardi down in Delaware. I also have a kid that plays down there. We also went to see Darrell Wilson, who's one of the greatest human beings on the planet and a heck of a coach. And he was actually at Iowa after I graduated. But he's now the defensive coordinator at Delaware State. So, we took our kids down there. We took our kids up to see Coach Babers up at Syracuse. And so our kids are, they see, kind of a plethora of college campuses. They can see what some of those athletes look like. And, they can get a feel for, where they fit. And I think at the end of the day, when kids get that information, I think a lot of high school kids think that all touchdowns are created equal, where if they score a touchdown in high school, that's just like scoring a touchdown in the Orange Bowl. You know what I mean? So I think those are some of the things that are important. We're going to go check out Rutgers practice and have some conversations with guys like that. But like I said, at the end of the day, I think it's just about self-awareness, actualization, and kind of seeing who you are, what the best fit for you, and finding that fit. And that's my job as a coach. As soon as we collect the equipment, that's not my job, is to get those seniors out of there. And this is probably the most difficult year I've ever had. Especially with the quarterback position, it was almost impossible because, colleges are now at the point where why am I going to invest in this, this freshman when I can take a kid who already, played college football for a couple of years, and now, we're going to bring him in. So I'd rather go that route than, investing in trying to, project and, figure out and look at this kid who's more of a process kid, and you're going to have to train him and teach him. So it's difficult. But again, like I said before, it comes back to relationships and, and finding a good fit for kids and, and again, letting the kids understand and the families understand that, you're doing everything that you can. And I give them concrete feedback. Hey, you want to go to Bama? Here, I'm calling coach. And look, hey, coach, look at this kid, and give me your feedback. As soon as he gives me the feedback, here, this is what he said. You're too short. You're 5. You run 5 flat. You can't play corner in the Big Ten. It's just not going to happen. So I think things like that, that things that kids really, really need to understand. And there's a difference between being a really, really good high level high school football player and and not being able to play at the next level. And that was something that I saw in my high school as well. We had the most wins in the state at that time. We had I think like 38 wins or something like that in a row. But you can count on one hand. How many guys went to play Division I football during that span. There was very few. You know, and I don't
That's
think
something we talk about, like you know, that's so crazy. That's something we talk about as well, right? I mean, we see it, you know, all the time. Is have realistic expectations, but also like, what are you comparing it to, right? And that's where we have to educate our parents a little bit and kind of humble them a little bit, like, you know, and understand, hey, Johnny's really good in his youth little whatever league in Randolph, New Jersey, but if we're going to take a step back and look at the big picture, you know, where does he really stack up? And I think it's something now with the way social media is and the way just kids all are more expanding and doing more things outside of their tight little, you know, bubbles. Right now you can see, do I really stack up?
Well, you stack up against the country. Yeah. You're stacking up.
And I think also the thing that, you know, just like when the kids coming from playing youth football, you know, to playing high school football, you know, it has to do with, you know, all right, you're way ahead of, you know, the curve as far as your size, speed, and strength, and especially when we talk about young boys, you know, they mature at different levels. You know what I mean? And I think in the past, one of the things that made New Jersey football players, you know, very highly sought after throughout the country was the fact that they're still malleable. You know, I can recruit you from New Jersey, bring you into my school. Your ceiling is going to be through the roof because you're going to get so much better and throughout the course of 4 years that it's going to be great. Well, and now you look at some of the kids from Texas or Florida, the kid that they are when they leave is a kid that you're going to get. You know, because they're not going to get necessarily bigger, stronger, faster. They have this high IQ as far as football and stuff is concerned. So I think that's something that's changed a little bit as far as recruiting too, is, you know, looking at, you know, the fact that, you know, Florida and Georgia, you know, I talked to Coach Bell, who's now head coach out in Georgia all the time. They have spring football, you know, and it's not spring football where they play an inter squad game. No, they're playing against other teams. So they're at a huge advantage over some of the things that we have in New Jersey, as far as their kids just being prepared via experience and time on task to play at the next level. And so it really opens a window for us to maybe do a little bit more as coaches. And, you know, we have to be really creative in some of the things that we do as coaches to compete, you know, right, at that level, you know, and again, like, so when I do have a kid that's, you know, he's got the measurables, right? So, but now he's up against this kid from Texas, this kid from Georgia, this kid from California, who has a lot more experience at playing the game than my kid does. So how do I continue to promote them and have them prepared to not only, you know, get that offer, but to play at that high of a level? Is really what makes what makes or breaks the process as a coach.
It's more difficult than ever, I think, for New Jersey and maybe a lot of Northeast schools in general. Because I actually told Derek this the other day. I was just happened to be reading. I was reading one of the preseason magazines, and they had the top 300 players from 2023, like rated top. You know, there was only one New Jersey kid in the top 300. Like, even as a kid, I remember you'd always have 10 kids from New Jersey in the top 300 at least. And I thought that may have been a process of the fact that in the South and in Texas and even in California, they're playing so much more football. I don't know whether it's good or bad for life, but as far as football,
you're talking facts. Like this is right, what it is, right? And when we talked to PJ Gibbs, right, that was down at he gave us a statistic about, hey, right, and I'm not sure, don't quote me on the numbers, or something about just because these guys live in these states, right? Mike Smith from American Heritage, the same thing. It was like the percentage of just them doing more football in the spring, or the more of the time that they're allotted than us, raised their games. And like you saw, it all correlated to more time meant better play, higher level play, all of that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, you even look at, like, you know, the spring, like, so going into your senior year, it's still a guess with our kids. It's a guess with our kids from New Jersey. versus, some kids from other states, like they can actually see them play. They say, okay, they don't have to, it's not a combine. It's not 7-on-7. It's
a game.
Helmet, shoulder pads. Oh, you can tackle, we do see your game speed and how it transitions.
Right.
And, okay. I can see that. So if you talk about like these coaches that have a ton of pressure on them who, I have to win, I'm on a hot seat. I got to feed my family. So I'm choosing between this kid and this kid. Well, hey, I'm going to go with the things that I know. I'm going to go with what I can see, rather than what I can guess. And so that kind of what makes it a little more difficult for us. And, like I said before, we just got to continue to be creative with things that we can do to prepare our kids to play at the next level. And again, like I said, it comes down to relationships and rapport and really, just promoting them the best that you can.
No doubt. Coach, thanks so much for being on. We've definitely taken way too much of your time. An hour and 6 minutes.
But I appreciate it.
No, it's been great having you on. Definitely want to touch base with you, in the season or postseason. And best of luck in camp. I know that. Well, it's not the grind that it used to be. So at least.
Close.
It's one practice, but
it's a different kind of grind. It's still a grind, though. Yeah,
it's harder to teach. It's got to be harder to teach. It has to.
It has absolutely right. It's how do I fit all of this in when hey, I'm opening up in 2 weeks, like
right. Yeah.
I'm scrimmaging this guy, and then I'm game scrimmaging on a Friday, and now we're game week. Let's go.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that part's definitely harder. Well, Coach, thanks for being on, and we'll see you real soon. All right, Coach?
It's been an honor. It's been an honor, guys. I appreciate it. And, as always, it's always great to talk to you guys. Coach, I'll see you in that first scrimmage. And
everybody, can't wait.
I'll see you soon.
Coach Schuman, take care. All right, guys, take care.
Day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, man.
All right, that was great. That was fantastic.
I'm
glad we got. I'll tell you. It's funny when you get to like 10 o'clock. You when you're coaching, you start to get tired. It's funny. It's amazing to be able to get in and have the conversation we just had late night. Which is
it just shows you what type of guy he is. What he's all into this, right?
Yeah,
he's got a dog, he's got kids, right? Like he's got all this, and still
amazing.
At the end of the day, I love this so much. How can this is going to help me with my kids, or there's something in his mind that said by doing that, right? Talking about networks, right? Like, hey, I know these guys in the future. And he does a lot with a lot. Right. And we didn't even get into half of, the stuff that he has in terms of where he's been along coaching wise and, some of his vision. He does a ton with the New Jersey Minority Coaches Association.
Right.
He's big with that. Listen, when he talks about relationships, there's not one guy in this state that when you mention his name, somebody doesn't say something good about in terms of what he does beyond the coaching stuff, right? He's coaches in North-South game. He does all. He's at all our New Jersey Coaches Association, usually taking on stuff that he doesn't have time for, right? And I believe he's a track coach too. So there you go.
I was really. I didn't know that.
Come on, man. He can run corner at Iowa.
I know that, dude. I know that. Well, Iowa used to.
They used to crush Jersey, come in and get everybody.
I remember first guy I remember was Tony Stewart. That was the first guy I remember. But obviously there might have been guys before. But Tony Stewart,
right? Because I think there were some Red Bank guys that when I was looking at the history when we were there,
really went there
to Iowa back in the day or something.
Okay.
I think maybe Trusillo possibly, right? But you just knew like Iowa, and even I can remember growing up. I can remember Iowa and guys.
I'm trying to think. So Hayden Fry. Like with Tony. So I knew who Tony Stewart was because Tony Stewart was a great hurdler. That's what the event I did. And Tony was he probably was like a senior, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I was a freshman, or maybe it was like I was in 8th grade or 7th grade. But it was around that time period. I remember how good he was from Union, Tony Stewart. Okay.
Yeah, big school, big, like a lot of tradition.
And then Scott Slutzker was from Hasbrook Heights, small school. So
Yeah,
and
but
obviously,
winning tradition.
right. Well, they had a big winning tradition. They were
Oh, I
pretty
don't know.
good.
I mean, I'm just going
That
off
team
what
might
I
have
know.
won. That team might have won. I mean, he was gigantic. He was like 6'5". And obviously Coach Holman, just player after player that have Vernon Rollins. It's interesting. That was his roommate. That was I would have
How
loved
crazy is that? How crazy is that?
So Vernon Rollins, I must have
And you
been.
talk about, the relationship that you could look. He hasn't been back to Iowa in 10 years, but he still has a relationship with all those guys that, and he talks about that, right? Like,
Look
so
up
that's
Vernon Rollins when you get a free moment. If you, it is the 90s. I'm telling you, he was so good.
what position?
What's that? Linebacker.
What position did he? Oh, he's a back. Oh, that's it. Yeah, he said I've never seen a better linebacker in my life.
He played for Toll. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
So
I knew he could hit.
Vernon Rollins, they used to say, would crush people in high school, and
And he went to Hackensack. That's where Hackensack was.
I'm almost certain he played. He might have played on Toll's first or second team, like one of the early ones.
Well, if he didn't play for Toll, then who did he play for? Mielo?
No, Mielo, believe it or not, was like I want to say the 70s to the early 80s. Yeah. So Mielo goes back pretty far. The only reason I know that is because one of the guys who used to help me with my camps back when I first started, we're talking about 2002, was a guy named Dodie Donnell. Yeah, a guy named Dodie Donnell who played it in Nebraska. Was a fullback in Nebraska.
Nebraska. Coming back, bringing him back.
And he passed away, Dodie. But Dodie's coach in the 70s was Mike Mielo. So that's how I knew he was at Hackensack in the 70s. So anyway, that's that here or there. But great conversation. And let's get out of here. And
sounds good. Always another good one, Coach. I appreciate it. Thank you.